Only a 30-minute presentation. I got a lot of information, so I'm going to fly this like I stole it, okay? Reason we're talking about coding with the pros, right? The most important part is that we all joined for a certain experience. We all wanted to do React Native for a particular experience. And I want to talk about that experience and where it's been and where it's going. To do that, got to talk about the bad things, right? Why do we want to do this? Well, a quick tidbit about me. I curate the React Native newsletter, published author, and I work for a little company you might have heard of called Infinite Red. But if you don't catch me just for my rugged good looks, you might know me from my GitHub, which has, today they did not allow me to bring my unicorn. So unfortunately, my nose. Let me go ahead and get a spectrum of the room here. Raise your hand if you're a React Native developer. Okay, and then raise your hand if you're just React and you're looking to learn a bit. Awesome. Just about everybody here, except for the guy in the back still eating a space cake. So that works out. He won't raise his hand for anything. So why the cons? Let's go through this quick history. What was mobile development to start off with? Well, everybody thought this is what we were doing. If you did mobile development back when there's an app for that, and it's a picture of us and our developer friends, of course, because mobile development always made a lot of money. This is what we did. I highly recommend that you Google people laughing with money. It's worth it. And then web developers sort of looked down or were a little bit confused by mobile development for a while because it was increasingly difficult. I've written tons of Objective-C. I still don't understand it. And this is honestly what I was doing, just waiting around, spending large cycles of information trying to figure out exactly how I can finally develop like I was developing for web. A talk that I think is going to be fantastic following this with Rom. This is the average salary in the US. It's not that much different. You know, you can multiply for euros. But if you're going to do iOS, you get around 85. If you could do Android, you do around 85. And everybody always wants both platforms, so I think that's what we all should be getting paid for doing this. It only seems fair. But ultimately, when you're trying to do this in native, there's a different experience, right? Completely learning one entire platform, then going around and applying on the other. You have a lot of context switching, and it hurts. So I want to start this off with talking about where we all want to be, right? We want the freedom to not have to worry about those pieces. We want to actually have fun with what we're doing. And there's a lot of tools out there that have promised us the way to kind of do these things. And I'm sure you've probably tried a few of these tools yourself. We used to actually be a pretty big Ruby Motion shop. And we had a company, and we did a lot of open source contributions, and we put all this information out there. And when we went out to deliver, have a great story. We jumped in a haha hackathon and said, all right, it's a 24-hour hackathon. Build a funny app. Well, we built not just one funny app. We did 4 entries. And we walked away with first, second, and 4th place. That's such an amazing feeling. It's a wonderful thing where you can get in there and then you can take those ideas and start actually applying them again, right? And then React Native came out, let's do this. And this is from ACM Magazine saying how important, how it's functional, how there's all these different ways to do it. And this is from the very first blog post I ever wrote about React Native, where here I'm editing and I'm watching it live update in iOS and Android at the same time. It was blowing my mind. So I was like, all right, let's ship with React Native. And the old way we used to do it, we had some really nice tools out there. Would say, Potion, generate a map screen, and then let's go ahead and do the map screen. Okay, that sounds like that's nice. The new way. All right, well, it's through Airbnb. It's not there. Oh, installation instructions. Let me click there. All right, I have to scroll. No, 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 no. For the love of God, no. Right? It's a lot more complicated to go ahead and perform on both platforms. It used to be so simple. I used to know the answer. So we do what we always do. We decide there has to be a better way, right? What we have to figure out is how to get back to that tooling, how to get back to that setup, and there's a lot of companies doing that. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about 3 React Native tools for sanity. So we can start taking those negatives and start turning them into the pros. The first one I'm going to talk about is Reactotron. Now, if you've used Reactotron, you're in love right now. But if you haven't used Reactotron, then it's going to feel a little bit alien. And so the developer of Reactotron, Steve Kellogg, He says it's like Twitter for your app events. So I want to give you a demonstration really quick. And here I am running. We have a conference coming up as well in the States. And so we have this app that we're working on, which is just going to be our conference app. And you might notice here on the side, we have Reactotron running, which is telling us about our sagas, telling us about our actions. It gives us a timeline for any API that we want to tie into. And we're actually able to dig into these apps and click on these particular items. Now, one of the cool features we want to do for the app is that we want to have this time on the side. So I can actually dispatch, but not the way you would normally dispatch. I can dispatch directly here from inside of Reactotron and receive that inside the app. So now it's Mike's talk, which is TBA. Good talk topic, Mike. Good job. And so one of the interesting things is, as a developer, I might want to go ahead and take a snapshot of this moment. And there I am. It takes a snapshot of the state as it is right now. Now I can dispatch another action. Let's go to 16. All right. And let's see. Let's move it a little bit further. Let's do 9. That probably went too far. So let me go a little bit further. 0, 9. Okay, so we can see these different parts. And then if I want to take a snapshot here, I'm snapshotting at this time. So as you can see, it allows you to actually access inside your application and check and investigate it. Additionally, you can listen to a particular part in state, and then you can subscribe to it here. So we want to take a look at schedule.current time. Then as I actually update it inside the application, it updates there. And lastly, we have this other tab here, and you might say, why do we have a phone here? This one's specific to React Native features, and we have a bunch of cool React Native features that we're going to be adding in as well. So if I wanted to take an image and drag it over into this section, it would overlay the image so that way when your designers actually give you some kind of UI to match, it's overlaid as you lay out your components. You can change the transparency. Additionally, we'll have async state and other features coming here as well. You might be wondering, how much does something like this generally cost? And it's 100% free. This is something that we've been developing, that people have been hearing about, but until today, I don't think we've actually told anybody at a conference or in a video at all. I highly recommend. It does work for web as well, but it is geared centrally around React Native. Additionally, you can see that we don't have remote debugging turned on, which is fantastic because you ever have that issue that you have to open and close Chrome in order to kind of reset what's going on in the packager, and sometimes those events take a little bit longer than you expected. So that allows me to go ahead and show off a little bit about Reactotron, as well as show off this is what we call teleportation. It's like time travel, except for the fact that you're taking snapshots and moving across instead of incrementing through time travel. The advantage that we have is that we get to show our app for our conference, and that's really the whole reason I did this. Okay, tool number 2. How many of you use Expo or Create React Native app? Yeah? If you're unfamiliar with it, I really wanted to do a demo of it today specifically, that I wanted to actually show the ability that I could take my phone out, run React Native app, then point the QR code, and then I'm running that app on my phone. And then I wanted to actually update it and then have all of your phones update. But due to a few preliminary tests for the network, you're not going to be able to do that because it's a different network. It totally did not work out. But usually we'll send these links to people, and then we can live update, especially if you're looking to get your app on your phone. Anybody who's kind of gone through all the complexities and the difficulty to get the signing certificates knows exactly how difficult that is. And here you're in Expo, you're doing it in seconds. One of the advantages, so if I went here to this Expo app, and I just ran npm start, it actually doesn't have any native portion in it. And so when this gets set up with native packager, a large QR code pops out, and then scanning that, you'll be able to actually watch the app live update. One of the cool things is it might seem that it's a little limited, but it's from our friends at Expo. It lets you really, truly kind of deal with just the JavaScript portion of it. And this is from React Conf 17. They showed all the different things that you could possibly be doing at one given moment at 60 frames per second with OpenGL and a bunch of other setup. So if you feel very limited by it, if you don't have to write any native code, Expo is a fantastic option. And then the third tool I want to talk about is Ignite. Ignite is a boilerplate and generator setup. And one of the things that we've done here is, if you take a look at the app that we showed earlier, that was 100% done inside of Ignite. And the idea is, if you could say, hey, Gant, I would love to have maps inside my application. And then I stand up and I move to the side, and then I sit at your computer, I install maps, and then I put an example code inside there for you and say, here you go, and then I get up and I leave. We feel like that's the kind of experience that we want to give people. So actually, I've done a couple of videos as well where I build an app inside of 15 minutes. I'd love to do it for you all today, but that would add a lot more time. And then actually adding some APIs. So if you're interested in building apps very quickly, getting back to that adventure, one of the things I like to do is I like to show how fast we can build apps. And if you take a look over here, we have our application, but the experience that I'm talking about, let me just kind of go over here and stop packager. There's no way that that's going to live through this. And I come back here. I'll say, Ignite, add maps. And it's adding maps. This is back to that experience. This is back to what we wanted to do. And then it's because we have a plugin out there. And you might say, oh, great, Yeoman. It's going to be extremely complicated. Well, we don't want to use Yeoman because we want to have just a simple install and uninstall script. And so here we are with maps. Gives us a few warnings. We should probably prompt people to go ahead and paste their codes in as well. If we took a look here, we could say that what got generated from this. So if we take a look inside the application, inside of dev screens and folders, we have examples, and we have a map example now. So it simply registers a nice little example there, and then if we run the application, go over to the plugin example screen, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen before, click on that, and then there'll be a small example of the maps there. Additionally, there's some tools that come in with this. So if I say Ignite generate, you can see that we've added map utilities, and a map callout. It detects that the plugin actually came in with those tools, and so we have new generators so that we can generate those pieces as well. And then we also have a video generator from that plugin. So with these tools in place, we have released quite a few apps out into the world, and then we have a bunch of people, we have an open community where people are coming back to us, and they're saying, hey, this is what we've built with your app. Would you like to go ahead and check this out? And so all those tools that I've mentioned so far are all open source, except for the pieces inside of plugins for Expo, but the code for working with them is open. And additionally, I think that we need to work on our plugin system here as well. So if we have more tools, like maps, where we could just say Ignite, add this, Ignite, add that, then we can have cooler features. For instance, our friends Geeky Ants went ahead and did a boilerplate so they could plug in. So now you can kind of work with native base just simply by typing a command and getting started inside the application. So it's Ignite plus native base. Additionally, we have all three of those guys working together. So here it is, Expo, Sagas, and React Native, Ignite. So you can see all these pieces working. They're non-mutually exclusive, of course. And additionally, I have stickers. If anybody's interested in getting a sticker with me with a unicorn on it, I'd be very happy to go ahead and talk to you afterward. And that's it. Thank you.
Hello. Yes. All right. Thank you. That was very enlightening and also enormously early. Oh. So, we're going to have to do a tap dance act now.
Well, if you want, I could actually go a little bit more into detail on some of
Well, so we can do some audience interaction. People can, if you have questions, I can walk over with a microphone.
Yes.
Yep. Let's do that.
What I've seen, I think, is all Redux-based.
What's that?
Redux-based?
Yes.
No Mobix?
Well, if you start off with the native base plugin, then I think that one's 100% in Mobix.
Oh,
yeah.
Thanks.
No problem.
All right. right, any more questions? So yeah, no, definitely, go deeper in on the subject. If
You want some more code?
Yeah, some live coding or something. Yeah.
I have a question. Can I ask you? How easy is it to develop a plugin for Ignite? Because for me, it sounds like, okay, you built an awesome tool, but then the crucial thing is how easy is it to contribute and build your own plugin? Otherwise, you get into a closed ecosystem, and it feels a bit...
So it's actually, there's no lock-in. So as long as you have an NPM module out there, and it has the functions exposed for install and uninstall, and we document this a lot on the website. So one of the things that I'll show you, let's see if we can get here. Let's see, all right. So if we go to Ignite here, we have a whole documents folder, and there's a whole section on developing commands, developing plugins, and boilerplates, and setting that up. So as you install, it just basically, it can be as simple as installing and then doing essentially a React Native link as well. And then on the other side of that, it can be as simple as taking that, whereas things with maps or adding native permissions, we have some helper commands that come along. So it'd be ignite, add Android permission or add iOS permission, and then allow you to actually type in those pieces. So your plugin is basically the simplest part of those steps, and then copying over an example. Yeah, so if I went in here, I just kind of showed you a second about Ignite here, right? Initial route, the launch screen. Let's do a reset here. That's right. Go run packager again.
Have you ever noticed the live reloading to crap up in React Native? Or
Yeah,
does
a
it
little bit.
always work?
Yeah, it depends on specifically. One of the things I'll say is like if it's already loaded and the state's set there, usually like with React navigation and such, that sometimes I'll have to Command R and just get a little bit working. But most of the time, the hot reloading is perfect.
So you feel you trust it, or you're always like,
yeah.
do I need to Command R?
Oh, no, I trust it a lot. It works out pretty well. It's when you type something that's obvious and you see no flash on the screen, then one of the things that I'll do then is I'll just hit Command R just to be safe. But then, by the way, this is the launch screen that we started off with, and these are those dev screens I was telling you about just a moment ago. And then, like I said, you saw I added maps. So if I will go over the plugin examples, if I knew I was going fast on time, I would have came in here a little bit more. But animatable, I18N, vector icons, just kind of taking a look. And so this works as like a component library for the plugins. And then you can actually have your own personal component library for your team, what you're working on, so you can take a look at all the pieces here. We also ship with some API, so you can take a look at how the API is coming back. We have a screen specifically for testing that out, and so you can do that in the field. The theming screen, which gives you a large portion of exactly the colors that you have set up. And we have plugins that we can kind of work this with. Right now we have a themes folder, but we're looking at adding a lot more. And device info, it's kind of key. This is always really important, specifically on Android devices, for looking at the differences between two of them, seeing why one might behave differently.
By the way, the flickering is because we have to drive the screen at 1080i, so
Yes.
just so you know.
Yeah. So, yeah, just actually adding in the plugin examples here is kind of gets the setup. So that's the experience I was talking about, where somebody would actually be able to say, hey, I'd like to go ahead and try out your plugin. It'd be nice if I could type something out, get it, try it out, and then I could just type ignite remove the plugin name, and then get rid of it as well. And the whole time, a lot of these, if you're already set up for the application, if it's going through the API plugins that we have set up, then you get to see API calls happening here. So let's see if we can get one to watch. So you saw they have the API response there, but if I take a look at the API here, I can look into the response. See? It's moving around on me. So what I'll do is I'm going to filter out the actions and sagas. So subscription changed. So there. Now I'll go ahead and see this. So I can see, look at the request headers, response headers, and actually investigate into the response on the API. That's it. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes.
Sorry, please use the microphone for the stream.
Yeah, can you hook up Ignite with an already existing project or app?
Yes. Yeah, so we have a command called ignite attach, which simply adds this folder to it where we can put the Ignite JSON explaining which plugins you've kind of worked with. But it does have, most of the plugins will kind of be dependent upon a folder structure. So if there's a specific spot where things are meant to be set up, it'll copy it there. But you can always fork the plugins. And then we also have another option called sporking, which is where if you have a design that you like, a generator, let's say you love the way we generate screens, and you just want to change one thing, you could say ignite spork screen, and then the advantage is, well, actually, I think I could just type ignite spork here, and then it shows me the plugins that I currently have. I say, okay, well, I want to take a look at the maps, and then, you know what? The map helpers, whenever those get generated, or the actual map component, I just want to go ahead and take a look at that, and so I can adjust those particular parts. And now anytime I generate a new map helper or I generate a new screen, then it'll use my blueprint instead. So per project, you can have different generators, not as well as just actually at the higher level.
All right, so I just have one last question, and that's like, how is the cross-device handling with Android with this?
Yeah. So we always make sure everything works perfectly with iOS and Android. And it's so everything that we're kind of doing here, especially in the app that I built in 15 minutes, one of the cool things is that we built the entire app, and the last thing I'll do with that one is I'll run Android just to basically show a friend of mine, and it's a really good video. He made an app that's been downloaded over 28,000 times, and we rebuild that exact same app in 15 minutes.
And does that hook into any automated testing facilities as well?
Yeah, so we start off with a few tests kind of set up. Currently it's Ava, but we're moving over to Jest. And then we've got a couple other features in there for integration testing, as well as a plugin coming in for Fastlane and sort of getting out to the store as well.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks, Gant Laborde.
All right, thank you very much, guys.